Hold on, it just says it's starting soon, so hold on one second. Okay, perfect. Excellent. Hello, everybody. I'm Tara, your moderator, and today we have our guest speakers, Harold and Dalipa from FlowWright. And today we are going to be talking about intelligent auditing with AI-powered document processing. This webinar is going to be about 20 to 25 minutes. It will be recorded, and we can send it to you for on-demand viewing. You can also come back at any point to our LinkedIn page and rewatch it at your leisure. Today, we are going to be talking about how AI is impacting document processing and how companies can drive efficiency through using the FlowWright platform. This LinkedIn Live today is sponsored by FlowWright Workflow Automation. We are a leading enterprise workflow automation software solution for enterprises around the globe. You will leave with an understanding about how our platform simplifies this complex work business processes using powerful no-code workflows and IDP. Don't worry about taking notes. We can send you the session's recording, and it will also be saved live. To make sure that we're helping you as best we can with the future of scaling, we have a chat bot to answer any of your questions. And now I'm going to turn it to FlowWright CTO Dalipa Wijanayaka and the CEO Harold Engstrom, as they are going to be our panelists and experts today. So let's dive into it.
Great, thank you very much, Tara. This is Harold. And we're going to do is walk through a few slides where we just describe the intelligent document processing example that that Dalipa then will demo to you, and then we'll just quickly recap what was great about this example. So we're here to talk about workflow-driven intelligent document processing using FlowWright specifically. So FlowWright is used to leverage AI as needed, as well as its inherent capabilities for workflow and other integration automation features to achieve significant ROI and risk reduction for the process of generating documents that, in this case, a semiconductor manufacturer requires. Philippe, will you hit the next slide, please? So this example, this intelligent document processing example, is about semiconductor distributor auditing. So semiconductor companies have thousands of distributors. They are compensated based on volume and margin. Each distributor may have hundreds of thousands or millions of transactions annually, and they need to know the companies that they distribute for need to know, are transactions being conducted lawfully? Do the transactions that are being audited actually support the compensation that the companies are receiving? And there are other considerations too that we can't get into. But this is a very manpower intensive operation. And because it's so manpower intensive, it limits the number of audits and the scope of the audits that can be conducted. If we go to the next slide, please. So, as I said, it's a time-intensive effort for each audit. There are thousands of documents of different types that need to be categorized. There are dozens of matches and calculations that need to be done across all the documents describing just a single specific transaction. And there are hundreds and hundreds of transactions that need to be audited. And so the result is that even large semiconductor companies with many resources sometimes can only audit a few distributors each year. And so they're possibly overpaying many thousands of unaudited companies. And at the same time, it's possible that some of the flow through may not even be required or allowed by law. Go ahead, Pete. So the key elements of using intelligent document processing, intelligent document processing using AI are that first you've got a huge number of documents. They need to be classified. The data needs to be extracted from them, and then using the auditing rules, that data needs to be matched and perhaps calculated upon. This is almost impossible to do, but FlowWright does this very quickly, easily, and generates the actionable tasks for distributors and auditors when documents are missing or when the data doesn't necessarily add up. So what you'll see in this proof of concept is Dilip will open up this simplified proof of concept. He'll choose a distributor and an audit instance for that distributor. He'll upload several documents associated with a single transaction. FlowWright will then, in the background, execute the audit using a standard set of workflow steps and artificial intelligence. A report will be generated to show the audit results for a transaction. A task may be generated for auditors and distributors. And then Dilip will walk through the workflow and steps, including AI calls that make all of this possible. Hi, D.
All right, let me switch over to the application. So in this application, let me go ahead and log into this IDP example. And so welcome to the audit application using intelligent document processing. In this example, what we're going to do is first we're going to go ahead and submit a bunch of documents. And I have two examples. I'm going to show you some of the files that I'm going to be submitting. In this example, one, I have 7 different documents, actually 6 different documents with different kinds of documents, like an invoice, accounts receivable, payment, proof of delivery, including the POS data. So once I submit this, let me go to the back to the application, and let me go and select a distributor. So let's say XYZ company. Audit name is going to be data audit. And let me select these files. And just to give you an example of what these files look like, let me open up the proof of delivery. And this looks like a typical UPS delivery note that you will get when a package is delivered. And if you further look at some of the other information, like let's say accounts receivable, this looks like a screen from SAP that is showing the data. And so let's go back to our application now. So as you can see, the files that I've attached are now can be seen here. They're attached. I'm going to go ahead and submit this request to be processed. Once this is processed, the workflow engine is going to now start processing based on the process definition that we have defined. And we can also go to these view submissions and see what's happening. So you can see customer name that we selected as XYZ company. Audit name is data audit, and you can see it's processing. So just let me go ahead and refresh this, and you can see that data was picked up, and it picked up the sales invoice number, and it classified documents, and it also did a match. So it pulled customer name from various different documents, and it's telling me that the data that we pulled for customer name matched about 71% from all the documents. Then same thing for the sales invoice number. You can see that it had a very low match, 43%. And then also the shipping address that was pulled from various documents, it had a match of about 78%. And I can also go ahead and show you what this data looks like, what was compared. So as you can see here, the sales invoice number, some parts match, but there's a lot of discrepancy in this. But for example, the customer name is pretty similar, so it matched pretty well. And then also the address was kind of, it matched, but not quite. There is, two of them were same, but one of them had a different value. So as you can see, this data was all pulled in and matched. Next thing I'm going to show you is the process flow that did all this work. So let me go back to reports and view submission. And if I click on the sales invoice number, I'm able to see the graphical process, what the process did. And the blue dotted line here is the execution part. So once the documents were attached and once I hit submit, the process automatically started. And the first thing it did was it got all the attachments and it did a little bit of logic here to find the POS document. So it went through each of the document and said, okay, go until I find the POS. In this case, if it doesn't find the POS, it is going to send the tasks to somebody in the organization saying POS file not found, and then from there they can take other steps. In this case, it found the POS document and it went down this particular path. And from the POS document, it pulled some information, things like sales invoice number, customer name, and it took that information and it stored it into a database for later for using for reporting and things like that. So from there, it went into sub processes that were activated or dynamically created at runtime for each of the files that were uploaded. So in this case, we uploaded, 6 documents, and you can see a sub workflow per document. And what this sub workflow did was it was able to analyze each of these documents and also pull the data that we need. Let me go ahead and render that and show you. So if you take the first sub workflow here, in this sub workflow, the first thing it did was it made sure that it was PDF file. It converted that PDF file into images based on number of pages, and then it sent those files and the prompt to AI and said, "Hey, I want you to classify this document. Tell me what type of document it is." So the AI came back after analyzing and said, "Hey, this document is accounts receivable." So as you can see, it went down the accounts receivable path, and then it did some further AI. It said, okay, because it's an accounts receivable document, I am going to pull this particular information out of this document, like sales invoice number, various different customer name, all that, and then it stored that info in the database against this particular record, and it did the same thing for each of the other files. So if you look at the next sub workflow, you can see in this case also it went down the path, and in this case it classified this document as the bank statement. Because it's the bank statement, we pulled out various different information. So using AI, we were able to pull that information and again store that information for later use. And let's take a look at another sub process here. In this one, it actually figured out and said, oh, this is the customer purchase order. And from here also, it was able to pull some attributes, values, and store that in the database. And let's go back to the main process. In this example, or in this sample one, I gave all the documents. So it processed all of this. And then over here, it checked to make sure that all the documents it needs to find were there. In this case, they were. And at that point, it went down this particular path, and it grabbed the invoice number from the different documents and used fuzzy logic to compare them and come up with a percentage. And it matched, and that's the percentage that you saw earlier in the reports. And same thing it did with the customer name. It took the customer name from these various documents and did a fuzzy logic match to see what percentage it would match, and the same thing with the shipping address. And from there, it went and stored that data for reporting in the database, and that's what we were able to see in the report. So if I go back to the report and if I look at view submissions, what you see here with the percentages was what the process flow calculated and showed. Okay. In the next sample that I'm going to submit is going to be sample number 2. In this case, we have a couple of different caveats in this sample. Number one, there is only 5 documents. There is one document missing. So we want the workflow to figure out which one and tell us. But also, if I show you these documents, they're all in Chinese. Okay? but we are trying to compare, we are trying to pull information out of this and compare them. So let me show you another, the payment document. And that one is also, you can see some kind of a check in Chinese. You can, let me show another one, proof of delivery. And this is also in Chinese. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and attach these documents and submit them. And let's see what the application does. So let's go to submit documents. In this case, the customer or the distributor is this J Binding Technology Company. And audit name is going to be, let's call it Data Audit 2. And let me go ahead and select the files. And we want the sample 2. And once these files are attached, as you can see, they're attached now. I'm going to go ahead and submit this. And at this point, the workflow is going to start processing. So let's go to our reporting and take a look at what's going on. So you can see it's still being processing the status. And let me just refresh to see. All right, so it got processed. And you can see the status says all docs not found. And you can also see for this, the data was pulled and matched. So the customer name matched about 42%, and the sales invoice matched about 28%, and the shipping address matched about 18%. And we can also go look at the data and see what data was pulled in. So let's go look at the second record. And as you can see, since most of the data was in Chinese, we were able to still, the AI was able to convert that automatically from Chinese to English and pull that data in for us. So you can see POS customer name, PO customer name, in the sales invoice customer name, proof of delivery customer name. They're all in English, even though they were in Chinese in the documents. You can see a couple of the shipping addresses are missing. You can also see the sales invoice number is kind of different. So a lot of the data that came in were very different. So that's why in the report you saw very low percentage on our matches. And we also use fuzzy logic to match this data to come up with those percentages. Okay. Let's go ahead and look at the workflow process that did all this work. So if we go back to view submissions, and let's go ahead and look at the submission we made. So in this process flow also, the first thing it did is it figured out which document is the POS, and it took the POS data right here, and then sent that data to the database. In this case, that record didn't exist, so it created that record. And then next thing it did was it went and started processing using a sub workflow for each one of the files that were attached. And even in this case, first thing it did was the classification. It told AI, hey, tell me what kind of document it is so I know what information to pull out of that document. So in this case, you can see this document was an accounts receivable document. And in this case, we pulled some of the data from it and stored it in the database. And from there, it processed the rest of the documents. And over here, it also checked, hey, do I have all the documents? In this case, the answer was no. And from here, you can see that it made some decisions. And you can see that in this part, what we are missing is the bank statement. So in this case, we are just using an update step to update status here. But this could be a task going to somebody in the organization saying, hey, for this sales invoice number, 123, you're missing the bank statement. Please upload it. And the process can now again reprocess that. In our case, we actually had the process continue and go back and do the calculations, even though we were still missing some data. And it did all the calculations and it went to the database and showed the reporting. And then that was the main reason why the low percentages in the match that you saw, because one document was missing and also some of the other data that was pulled in was very different from each other. So this is pretty much a whole, POC demo of intelligent document processing. Now I'd like to turn it over to Harold and have him continue on the presentation.
Great. Thank you. That was great, Dave. So I think what we wanted to make sure that you could, that you could take away from this is that, this was a relatively sophisticated proof of concept, and it was developed in under 4 hours. So it's very intuitive to build intelligent document processing solutions using FlowWright. This particular POC now shows that it's possible to audit orders of magnitude more distributors, so that you can instead of auditing a very tiny fraction, you could audit a more significant percentage and ensure compliance and improve your margins. For this particular industry, I think the broader takeaway is that any intelligent document processing challenge can be met with FlowWright. That's because FlowWright itself is very flexible, and it's able to leverage the available AI routines and capabilities that are available. And you can use FlowWright to digitally transform any sophisticated process. So we hope that's what you take away from this, and we hope that you'll look to us when you have a real challenge for integrating and automating, and especially if you need to intelligently process your documents. So I just wanted to thank you. Delee, we go to the next slide, please, Dee. I just wanted to thank you very much for participating, for listening. You can reach us at info@flowwright.com, or go to our website and fill out a form to request a time to talk, or if you want to submit information about the challenges that you'd like us to consider building a proof of concept for. Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, thank you everybody for joining. Obviously, those that watch this back, you can book time directly on Harold's calendar to discuss proof of concept as complicated as this one. So we'll tune in next time for our LinkedIn Live, and we'll continue to help with your enterprise solve very challenging problems using AI and workflow automation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.